as I said, I'm a farmer, always have been. I produce oats and I produce beef organically. And that's all I know. That's what I do for a living. So the question that we've been asked to look at is, what will consumers want from their food in 2020? Well, to be honest, I haven't a clue what they'll want, but all I know is that as a farmer, and remember, farmers are food producers. So if I said to somebody, I'm a food producer, they might wonder, what's a food producer? Well, farmers are food producers, and don't ever forget it, because all the talk today about food and all the rest, it cannot happen without people like me. And don't ever forget that. So if we want this quality, if you want this quality of food that is produced locally and fresh, then we have a very serious challenge ahead of us. And this challenge, and it's the big question as far as I'm concerned, is not what food will people be eating in 2020, but who will produce that food of high quality, local, fresh food in 2020. That is the question. So I would like to show you some slides, just a few slides from the National Farm Survey 2012. This is an annual survey carried out by Teagasc to establish the level of farm incomes on Irish farms. It doesn't measure total household income. It's a CSO that does that. So just to put it into perspective for a start, just the number of farms in Ireland. There's approximately 75,000 farmers in this survey. There are some more farms, but their output is so low that Teagasc don't put them into the figures. So dairy farms are about 15,500. Dry stock farms, now that's beef and sheep producers. And they're about, as you can see, 71% of those, and tillage 9%. So just bear that in mind, that almost 3/4 of farmers are what we call dry stock farmers, producing beef and sheep. Now, the 3-year average family farm income for those 3 categories: dairy, 56 grand, tillage, 37.5, dry stock, 16,000. That's the annual farm income from those farms. Average size about 100 acres. Now, okay, you can say they're getting subsidies. They are. The subsidies are included in that figure. So in dry stock farmers, the subsidies come to about 19,000 on average per farm. That is the biggest down to the smallest. So at the beginning of the year, you could say the farmers, 2/3 of the farmers of Ireland start off at 19,000. They farm for the year and they end up with 16,000. So those farms are losing money. Even with the subsidies, they're losing money. Most people might not be aware of that. Some farmers are doing very well, but the vast majority of farmers on their farming enterprise are actually losing money. So most of my talk now is in relation to those dry stock farmers that I'm talking about that are in that 2/3 category. So I think you'll agree that the question here is, who will produce fresh local food in 2020 is a very relevant one. So there is an obvious need for the majority of farmers to do something different with their land if they want their holding to be financially viable into the next generation. And this is the crucial thing, into the next generation. Because if nothing is done, the next generation, the children of my generation, will not do what we have done. And that is for certain. So they're not, the current generation, and it's not just in Ireland, they are not interested in physical work, working 60 to 80 hours a week for very low pay, often working in complete isolation. So this trend is not only in Ireland, but it's across the developed world. And it is basically the urbanization of society. And I meet regularly with farmer groups from abroad because I take tours on my farm. And I just mentioned to them that Irish people from these kind of farms are not staying on the farms, and they say it's exactly the same where they are. So it's a Western world type of thing, that the younger people now, they don't want to do physical work, they're well qualified, they can get work almost anywhere. Okay, they have to go abroad to get it, but they can have a good income, a good lifestyle, and why should they do what they saw their parents doing? They don't want to do that, and I'm not saying I blame them. So the question is, how can those farms who want to remain on the land become viable and produce this local fresh food that we're all looking for. So, I mean, the two questions are, what can we do, or what can those farmers do to produce this high quality food? And secondly, in doing so, that the farmer will return an income to the family that is commensurate with the financial and human cost involved, and that it will be attractive for the next generation. Because if you don't have the next generation, you have nothing. We're all wasting our time. So I don't have all the answers, but there are a few of the usual options that farmers are familiar with. Larger holdings could switch to dairying, which is becoming a reality for some people now with the imminent abolition of dairy quotas. The holding can be leased to someone else, the land can be sold, can be planted into forestry, or the owner can get an off-farm job if there were jobs available locally. So none of these options are new, and the farmers are all familiar with them. But however, I believe that farmers need a completely new approach to planning their future as food producers. They need to be exposed to new and innovative and creative ways of thinking about how to solve their low-income problem. They will have to think the unthinkable, be creative in coming up with new products, or old products in a new way, or new products in an old way. They need to look at their resources in terms of land, labour, skills and finance. And they need to be challenged regarding how they can get a higher price for their products, because they need to get a higher price for their products. And I'll just, on the price of products, just to show you this next one. What will you get for a tenner now? 20 cigarettes, approximately, 2 pints, depending on where you buy them, 20 kilos of potatoes, 4 kilos of porridge oats, 100 servings, 12 litres of milk. For a tenner, it has to change, people. I'm sorry, you might not like to believe that the price of food, the price to the producer has to go up somehow. But the producer has a certain amount of that within his own hands, and that's what I'm focusing on. I'm not looking for more subsidies or anything like that. So farmers need to change how they think about all that stuff, and they need to become price makers, not always price takers. And it's like the person with the ice cream at the football match long ago before there were fridges. At half time on a sunny day, if the ice cream was melting and it wasn't selling, the price came down. So he was a price taker at the beginning of the football match, he was a price maker. So he has a perishable product, and in general, farmers have perishable products, and they need to plan around that. So the farmers must be challenged in being proactive and seeking out markets. They must go and talk to their local shops, delis, restaurants, hotels, and find out what food they want, when they want it, what the quality needs to be, and at what affordable price it can be. So you might rightly ask, how is all this going to happen? Because it's easy to put up a problem, but it's much more difficult to put up a solution. So I can give you just a couple of examples that I have been involved in. I've been involved in my local area in an ideation camp with 150 transition year students, where the students are taken out of their school for 2 days to a hotel, and each group of 5 students is challenged to create a new idea or a solution to an existing problem using modern technology. This project is now sponsored by Intel, and they have some of their top executives from around the world coming to this event to, in a structured way, challenge the students to solve problems by thinking differently. In school, in our education system, students are not taught how to think creatively. So this has to be done at some stage. So this idea started in a small way in a Midland town, and Intel are now going to bring this project on a global basis. I can give you one other example. Back in the 1980s, of an ideas generation session which I attended in Mullingar, run by the predecessor of Chagas and the County Council, and delivered by the Innovation Centre in Limerick. So after a 2-day session in a local hotel again, our group had a vision for a meat processing plant in our county. Westmeath is a very good county for producing beef, and there was no meat processing plant there. So we said we should have one. So the seed was sown, the factory was built, and today there are 100 people employed in that factory. And on the other side of the village, there's another meat processing plant employing another 100 people, in addition to a lot of little ancillary industries that are going around servicing those two big meat plants. So it can be done. So farmers that are financially stuck in the muck, as it were, need to be exposed to a similar experience in creative thinking. And I can tell you that for those who are involved in such a process, it can be a life-changing moment, without a doubt. So the next question, how is this going to happen? How can we have an ideation camp for farmers? Who's going to do it? Great ideas, but who's going to do it? So I think this project could easily be organised by Teagasc, but not delivered by Teagasc. No offence, no offence to the people in Teagasc. I have plenty of friends in there, but in my view, the whole concept of an ideation camp is to take people out of their comfort zone and into completely new surroundings, that they can leave their used ideas in the car park and start with a clean slate. Listening to and working with new faces, new ideas, and new ways of creating new visions. I would suggest that the ideation camp would be delivered by experienced professionals in this area, together with business people with a track record in innovation, involving resource from third-level colleges, county enterprise boards, and Board BIA. So from my experience, the amount of my limited experience, I should say, the amount of goodwill out there, it's enormous towards local food producers, from the retail and catering sectors, particularly from the general public and from the media. As far as I'm concerned, the time was never better for farmers to take a risk, start a new business in a small way to begin with, get help where necessary through the many state agencies at very little cost, I might add, reskill for a new venture, produce a new product that you can sell at a profit, that you have pride in, work hard and sensible, and the rewards will follow. The successful artisan producer, to be a successful artisan producer, it is not necessary to think that you're going to employ 20 people and you're not successful unless you do that. You can do it on your own and do it successfully. So the important thing for artisan food producers is that they produce a product that they have pride in, that they love doing, and that they are making some money out of it. And farmers should not, or food producers, I should use the term food producer rather than farmers, should not apologise for wanting to make money and a decent standard of living from what they do. The rewards are very good, in my view, but there are two kinds of rewards. There's the financial reward, which we've already spoken about, but there's also the job satisfaction. And in general terms, I would suggest that the level of job satisfaction among Irish farmers, at whatever level it exists, if it exists at all, ends as soon as the produce leave the farm gate. This is because their produce is piled into a heap along with every other farmer's produce, and there is no feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, from the person who ends up eating that food. So, therefore, there is very little incentive for the producers to go that extra mile in considering what it is that their customers really want. Or sometimes I wonder if food producers, i.e. farmers, realise even that they have customers. The markets are there. There is no question about it. The markets are there. And if the food is good at a fair price and a good service is given, delivery on time and so on, the markets are definitely there. They're there from the chefs, from the cooks, from the general public. And I know that I've been privileged to eat dishes created by Irish chefs and cooks this summer. We had family celebrations this year, so we had calls to go to places that we wouldn't normally perhaps be able to afford. But the dishes created by Irish chefs and cooks are second to none. But what they really want, and it has been referred to earlier already, is local, fresh food. And there's not enough of it, but it can be done. So, to summarise, Madam Chairperson, the first question was, who will produce the food? And you saw this, the unsustainable level of farm income among 2/3 of Irish farmers. And the next generation will not tolerate that. Secondly, in order to keep the next generation interested in the land, farmers will have to change and do things they never dreamed of before by becoming much more innovative. An ideation camp for farmers is one way to kickstart the process. And finally, the markets are there if the service is good, the supports are there for startups, and above all, the goodwill and encouragement is there in abundance. Thank you.